Do you have cavity sliding doors like this one in your home? You might be surprised to find that they can be amazingly drafty. Hi, I'm Maurice Beinat, I'm Technical Director at ecoMaster, and in this video we're going to look in detail at treating cavity sliding doors. Before setting about to treating your cavity sliding door, the first part is of course to determine whether it's a draughty system or not. So if you're unsure about that, you could wait for a very windy day and test with either a tea light candle or a couple of incense sticks that make a lot of smoke. So the smoke is a great indicator of airflow, of course, and as is the flame on a candle. If you want to be a bit more scientific about it, you might get a blower door test. So that's where device is fitted on usually the front door and sucks the air out of the house, and then it's easier to find such drafts. However you do it, if you determine that your cavity sliding door is a draft issue, there are two ways fundamentally to treat it. So if your cavity sliding door is a division between conditioned and unconditioned space, then of course the simple way to treat it is with a draft dodger cavity sliding door kit, which seals the cavity slider when it's closed. If, however, as is the case here, it's conditioned space both sides, and we have determined that the cavity in this case is drafty, then the only way to really treat that is to remove the cavity sliding door and actually treat the cavity inside, and that's what we're going to learn how to do in this video. Before we take a door out, it's helpful to understand how the cavity is actually constructed and therefore where the draft could possibly be coming from. So the cavity here, if we didn't have the plasterboard hiding it, we would see two thin pieces of timber along the front, one this side, one the other side, and a number of horizontal sections and a backboard at the back. Now sometimes there is a top and bottom, and sometimes that's just framed as well. So clearly where the horizontal members join at the back, there's plenty of scope for draft to come in that way, and also sometimes there are penetrations through the floor or in the roof. So these are all places where of course draft can enter or leave. So bear in mind that if you're looking at it with some kind of smoke like incense or a candle, sometimes that could come this way or sometimes it could be sucked in depending on the airflow at the time. So let's have a look in detail inside a cavity. Before we can get to the cavity and work in that, of course, we do have to remove the door first. Now, if it's part of a double door, as is the case here, then it's a very simple matter of simply removing the center stop and moving this door over to the other side of the opening so we get free access to the cavity. However, most cavity sliding doors are singles, and so in that case what we need to do is firstly remove the pelmet, which is secured by a couple of screws, and then that gives access to the runner hardware, and then we need to loosen off the runners on the door so that it can be lifted out of the cavity, and then we can have free access. So we have managed to remove the door from this cavity, and so we can look in the cavity itself. Starting at the bottom, at the front, we can see that there's a gap there. There is floor under it, but we don't know where else it goes, so we're going to treat that. And if we look further back within the cavity, we can see the horizontal sections at the bottom and the back of the cavity slider at the back, and the gaps are vertical gaps between the horizontals at the back on either side, and so we're going to fill those. What we see behind it is a standard wall stud, but we're going to fill those cavities, the vertical parts between the horizontals going back there, and as we go further up, we can see the track that the runners run in, and right at the front here we can see a gap either side of the runner, so we're going to treat that as well. And so if we treat all those things, We expect that the cavity will be well draft proofed. Before we can draft proof the cavity, we need to get some things ready. Now, one of the things that we need is some medium density foam, such as this. And we're going to cut that into thin strips and kind of wedge shape. So it's easy to put in and the wider part gets squeezed in to make a good seal in the cavity. So maybe you've got some scraps of foam like this, or otherwise just get yourself a chimney draft stopper from the ecoMaster store. And then what we're going to need is a means of getting it to the back of the cavity where we're going to push it in and seal up those gaps. So you might want to use something like this. So this is called a push stick. Of course you don't need the stripy paint on it, but this is just a 30 by 12 piece of timber that you can get from the hardware store. And we've put in 2 Phillips head screws, and then we've cut the heads off. So what this is good for is impaling the foam rubber on there so that we can maneuver it to the back of the cavity, and once it's pushed in a little bit, we can pull the push stick out and then turn it around and use the blunt end to poke the rest of it in so that it makes a really good seal. Well, now we're ready to start draft proofing the back of the cavity, and to do that we cut a section of foam that's going to fit between the horizontal sections, and we cut it in a wedge shape like that and fix it onto our push stick. So that's going to enable us to easily push it into the space. And then we can pull the push stick out and you turn it around and use the blunt end to actually poke it all into place. So the entire cavity has now been treated. You can see at the back either side, the foam has been pushed in to take up all the available space and draft proofs the cavity. Also at the bottom, at the front, we've filled the space where we didn't really know where that was going. At the top, we had gaps either side of the track, and that's been filled in with foam pieces as well. Well, there you have it. How to treat a cavity sliding door actually within the cavity itself. I hope that's been helpful. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thanks for watching.